So first, let's go to the important story. The story of the vaccine being here in Singapore, and why is this not mandatory, and how is this vaccine coming to Singapore affect our economy, our lives? I'm going to turn this over to our Prof. Gilbert, who is the expert. Gilbert, what do you think the fact that the vaccine is not mandatory?
Okay, Singapore mandates a few vaccines which are for children. But generally, it does not mandate vaccines. And in this case here, these vaccines are relatively, well, they're very new. So they've not had what are called long-term trials. So generally, for example, a vaccine like the measles vaccine has been used for decades. So you know, over many decades what the results are. For the COVID vaccines that are being developed, because they are being rushed out so much, they've not had time, obviously, because we've only had COVID for 1 year to do long-term trials, okay? So let me just state clearly from the beginning that these vaccines are safe for the majority of people and that they have gone through all of the very stringent clinical trials. What do I mean by clinical trials? You know, when you read online, very often you see people who I really do believe are just trolls because they're saying things like, oh, the government ministers should be the first ones to get vaccinated, etc., etc. Before they were even released, they already went through the specific Pfizer COVID vaccine that we're talking about, that Singapore, HSA has approved, has gone through 43,000 tests. That means to say being tested by 43,000 people in 150 clinical trials across the world. So this has been tested with different age groups, with different ethnicities, with both men and women in different age groups, to see the effects of it. So it's been very thoroughly tested. Now, they have ascertained, and HSA has looked through all the clinical data and realized that and ascertained that it is safe. So people do not have anything to worry about here. I know that there were questions about the people who, for example, had allergic reactions to it. Now, you can be allergic to anything. All right. There are people who are allergic to food, and these people who had severe allergies were people who knew they had severe allergies. They were carrying around an EpiPen. Their allergies were so severe that they knew that they were very sensitive, and they were carrying an EpiPen around.
Right.
So when they got this, they did have an allergic reaction, but the chances of this happening for the majority of people are infinitesimally small.
So we understand what you're saying. But the fact is that Singapore has always maintained most of the time that no, there are certain things which need to be done for the greater good. Now, in this instance, where obviously once you open up, once the vaccine's there, you're doing this because you want the economy to get better. So you're going to open up, and there's going to be travel, and there's going to be people moving around, coming from abroad. Now, in which case, again, my question would be that when Singapore has always said that we make decisions for the greater good.
Yes, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So
do you
why
need to mandate
is it
No,
not
it doesn't.
mandatory?
First of all, people cannot think that the vaccine is a silver bullet that will solve everything. Let me give an analogy so that everyone understands, okay? Imagine that the country is a house. This is your house, and you want to protect your house from burglars. So, mask wearing is your front gate or your front door. That protects the burglar from coming in. But, so everyone still has to have to have the front door, okay?
Correct. So that's mandatory.
Yes, that's mandatory.
Correct.
Because that's essential,
Right.
right? Then, what if one burglar manages to come in to your house? Because that's possible. Even though you have a front door and front gate, one may sneak in. Then the virus is like a guard dog that's inside the house that will rip apart anyone that comes inside. And that is the vaccine.
Right.
Okay?
But these burglars come in, just one burglar, and you have decided that because it is not mandatory, I do not need a guard dog. And obviously, no guard dog, this burglar that's come in, will burgle my house, and I will get it. And we've noticed what has happened, whether it is in Korea, in the nightclub, in Hong Kong, those Tai, the dancing classes which they were doing, where this just started the horrible chain
I understand.
So I think it's more important to understand what is the reason. Look, the government wants to respect our choices.
Yes.
Fair enough. I sincerely hope this becomes a habit with the government all the time.
Let me put it
respecting
this way,
people's
okay?
choices. Okay, let me ask Chris what he thinks about the fact that it is not mandatory. Look, it's great news. Of course, we are rejoicing. But will it work if not each and every Singaporean?
Yes, that's my answer to you. Yes,
Okay.
it doesn't
All
have
right,
to be mandatory.
Let's ask
Yeah.
Chris. What do you think about this, Chris?
Before I answer that question, I just want to add on to what Gilbert has said.
Right.
Dr. Sean Vasu, Clinical Director from the National Center for Infectious Diseases, he said this, that because people are so worried about this vaccine being so rushed, so let's try to put this to bed.
Yes.
He said that this type of vaccine, which is the mRNA, the messenger RNA
Correct.
type vaccine that both Pfizer and Moderna had developed, they're not new. This type of vaccine has had a history of development to combat cancer and is considered new only because it is now used to fight an infectious disease. So actually, it's been around. New only because it's being introduced now to fight this pandemic. And he said, again, while it may be faster to develop mRNA vaccines, it does not necessarily guarantee clinical efficacy. And if a vaccine candidate fails in terms of efficacy or safety, it would be back to the drawing board again.
Yes.
Now, ultimately, this does not mean that pharmaceutical firms or regulators are cutting corners. Now, efficacy, as far as we know it, for both these vaccines, correct me if I'm wrong, it's about 95% efficiency or efficacy.
Efficacy, yes. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's bloody good enough. And it's not a new thing. Now, whether or not we should be mandating it, let me tell you what happened this morning. I was at one of my usual coffee shops where I have a bunch of friends. And I tell you, I got into a pitched argument with them because Gilbert, Daisy, here are the things they raised, which really got me riled up. And one of it would be, this one, Ang Mo develop one. Ang Mo develop one. We not Ang Mo no. What makes you think that this one will suit our DNA? I said, you professor, you know all about DNA, you bloody mangkuk, right? Number one. The other one is this. There's still no guarantee of immunity. Okay, wait. No lah, I'll wait and see lah. See what happened to other people. That's
Right.
the most
Right.
responses.
Wait and see approach.
The
Yes.
other one is Sinovac, the one from China. I'd rather take that one because I China also. Okay? Bloody stupid. No? Okay, the next one, Sinovac, I don't want to take because a lot of people still don't trust it. Okay? Now, that one is I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Now, however, interestingly though, it has been said in Singapore by our medical panel experts that they are hoping to see 60% or 2/3 of our population to be vaccinated. It is not about a vaccine, it is about to be vaccinated. That is the most important key. Being vaccinated. It's not about a vaccine. And they're saying that if we have 60% at least of our population vaccinated, herd immunity within the enclosure of our small island could likely happen.
Correct.
So ideally, we need to see that, right?
So ideally, you need to see at least 60% vaccinated.
Yes.
And therefore, if you talk to most people, like your friends who you met in the coffee shop, most of them turn around and say, let's wait and see the effects of the vaccine.
Yeah.
Because currently they feel safe. And okay, look at me. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm in a safe environment, 1. 2, I'm not planning to travel. 3,
I'm
I'm
used to
going to
wearing the
continue.
masks.
Yeah, I'm going to be safe, and I'm going to be continuing this way. So I don't have this mad rush of getting vaccinated.
Therefore-
I'm going to wait and see.
Therefore,
Now-
this was my answer to these guys.
Right.
My answer to them was, listen, stop being so damn selfish. Because by doing this, you are going to ensure that this pandemic on our shores continues, There will be no bloody end. Right?
But then if that is the case, we come back to the question.
Correct,
then,
which is where I'm going to
then why-
answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer the question. Because there are dingbats all around us, there's so many, you read the posting comments in some of our major broadsheets online, and there's idiots who say rubbish.
Yep.
I feel make the damn thing mandatory on the condition that people who
have
go into
allergies.
anaphylactic shock.
Yeah.
People like me, I don't know whether I'm in that category. Something for you to think about, please, and advice too, if you can. Like, I've got allergies. My mom has got, a lot of allergies. He doesn't walk around with an EpiPen. But I tell you something, in both our households, Zyrtec is like everywhere, man. Right? So I need to make sure that I have antihistamines everywhere, all the time.
So people who have this can abstain.
Yeah, so
there's special cases.
I don't know how it's going to be distributed, whether it's going to be going to our neighborhood GPs or
Yes, you obviously
doctors.
can't do it
Correct.
yourself.
So
Yeah.
what?
So
you're saying let's make it mandatory.
I
It should
think
be
so.
Okay.
if you really want to.
Let me just say
open
this,
up.
guys. Okay, let me just say this. This is the government's stance now. Okay? Doesn't mean they won't change it if they see that it's necessary. I
If
believe
not even
that,
60% take the vaccine.
I believe that they're going to monitor this. And one of the reasons why I think they don't want to make it mandatory is simply because there has not been long-term trials. The government is very, very careful. HSA is incredibly careful. Whenever they mandate something, they want to look at all of the clinical data to make sure that, okay, over 10 years, this has been what it is. It's just not possible with a vaccine that is not, with a disease that's not even then. So, but they're going to monitor the situation, and if they feel that it is necessary, they can make it mandatory.
Correct. So, Gilbert,
okay. So I don't think it's important for us to discuss now what we think
to
it should
end
be.
the sort of just finish this discussion. We are looking at a situation, and I'm just going to be the kind of devil's advocate and saying, if I'm the government and I'm looking at it and saying, yes, I know it is going to work, but you have that 0.000%, which is not yet tested or whatever reason. So am I looking back and saying, look, at the end of the day, this is your personal choice. Once that choice is made, I, the government, am not going to take responsibility for it.
What do you mean take responsibility for
No,
it?
in the sense, if something is mandatory, you do it. I mean, there were people who were exercising and then they had the mask and they couldn't breathe, but it was mandatory. Now you're saying the vaccine is not mandatory. And I'm just trying to understand whether this will work. If it is not mandatory, like Chris said,
I think that all the epidemiological experts have already looked at this, and they are for the time being, it's not mandatory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
You
so
know what I
don't
like?
think-
I like that in some countries, and there are important political figures and celebrities who are all making a stand by having the vaccine
Yes.
first, just like our
I
ministers
think
are.
even more
I think
important
that will send a
is
positive message.
I think even more important is for the government to really crack down on misinformation and disinformation that is spreading, and on anti-vaxxers. I think that's more dangerous.
So
okay?
we need
rather than mandating it.
Correct.
Yes.
So we need public engagement and trust at all levels of the
and also
community.
to quash people who are out there spreading nonsense, because there are people out there spreading nonsense. There is an anti-vaxxer movement in the world that is very dangerous, that really manufactures and distorts information, that comes up with bizarre conspiracy theories that have got no grounding in reality, but which many people believe in for their own bizarre reasons.
Correct.
Thankfully, this group of crackpots is not strong in Singapore, but the internet being what it is, this kind of information does spread, and even people of goodwill will stupidly read and share. I caught a friend of mine doing this and asked her about it, and she says, whether true or not true, I don't know, but better to share, right? I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. What if someone was to say that, when you cheated people of money and then spread this around, and then someone said, and I said, I don't know whether it's true or not that she cheated people of money, but better to share lah.
No, so
Doesn't
what
work
you're
that way,
so
know.
I agree. So what we are saying is that we have to seriously address the issue that contribute to this vaccine hesitancy.
Yes.
And we have to be very critical. It's very critical to increase the uptake.
But you know what?
What's
so sad? What is so sad is some Singaporeans are behaving like Trumpers.
Yes.
It's really ridiculous. Now, tomorrow, Mike Pence is making a public thing about this whole thing. He's going to be vaccinated tomorrow. Next week, Biden will be.
Yeah, so is Obama and all of them.
So-
and our ministers too.
Yeah. So, come on now. If you know that there is already something to help, just bloody get it done. Okay.
Again, the bottom line for people who are concerned, first of all, you're not going to be given this in a kit for you to inject yourself at home. You have to go and see a doctor. Talk to your doctor about your own health. The doctor will say, hey, do you have any allergies? What have you been allergic to before? They will do all of this vetting for you. So you don't have to worry, if the clinical trials tested people as young as 12 up to age of 91. So they know that, tens
What are
of
the
thousands of
results?
people,
Yeah.
it's safe, right? But talk to your own doctor about your own conditions. Bring it up. Hey, I'm allergic to house dust. I get breakout in hives when I eat eggs, blah, 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 and all of that.
Sounds like me,
Okay,
man.
so
Sounds like
yeah,
me.
so on this
wonder it's
note,
always scratching.
the fact is,
shut up.
people will make their own choices. But what is really exciting is that phase 3 is going to begin on 28 December.
Hey, wait, I want
And
to ask
it's
something.
time-
Why you move there so fast? Relax first. Gilbert, so after we get vaccine, do we still have to wear masks?
Yes, of course.
Then you-
Remember
okay,
the
so
analogy
I'm
I gave?
wait,
your
wait,
front
wait,
door
wait,
versus your dog.
You're not listening.
I am listening. That's why I'm
Mask
asking.
is
Okay,
the door,
okay,
the
let me
guard.
I tell you,
Okay.
auntie, can you wait? Give me a while.
Grandma.
So, let me ask you. So, if we get vaccinated,
Yes.
and let's say 60% of the population gets vaccinated, this mask wearing thing is permanent for life.
No,
For
it's not.
now.
And-
no.
and-
For now.
No, let me explain to you. It's very easy for people to wonder how does this pandemic going to play out. You have to look at the first country that had the pandemic, that's China. People in China right now are not wearing masks anymore.
So,
Life
the
is
people in
more
New
like
Zealand
that.
as well and Australia.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But that is not the situation yet in Singapore because Singapore government is very, very careful.
Correct.
To answer your question, if you have got the vaccine, it means that your body the virus cannot replicate in your body.
Right.
It does not mean that you can't still carry the virus and spread it to someone who is not vaccinated.
Okay.
So therefore,
The
you
others
still
have to be vaccinated.
So basically, the
too.
others who are not vaccinated are a bunch of bloody idiots, and they should bloody get it done,
Or
right?
they
Otherwise, we have to
cannot.
wear
the
masks
ones who are
forever, right?
allergic like you, because you won't get the vaccination because you're allergic.
Yeah.
You goddamn better wear your mask.
Yeah. Everyone
And on
needs to wear a
that
mask.
note,
So let's say, for example, let's say, Chris, let's say for example, I have the virus, okay? But I've gotten vaccinated, so I'm okay. My body is not going to replicate the virus, but I've still got the virus for 14 days. You can't get the vaccination because you're allergic to it.
because you're allergic.
If I don't wear a mask, you can catch it that
will
way.
catch
So
it.
you can't. The mask wearing is still necessary.
Absolutely.
Until a certain point.
No, and
but
the point
there is
will
an
come.
end to it.
Yeah,
There
the point
is an
will
end to
come,
it.
and we will know. And on that point,
Yes.
Wait, which is where, since we're talking about my allergies, do you know that my piles are contagious?
I've
You have
got a
to rub a certain
vaccine.
part of yourself.
I've got a vaccine.
For those of you who are still
we shall
curious about
move
this,
on.
there will be a Health Zone episode about vaccines coming.
And piles.